Friends, life often brings us to a point where the difference between wealth and poverty is evident not just in money, but in humanity. Last night, at the city's largest five-star hotel, an incident shook everyone. A poor waiter, with a glint of hard work in his eyes and lines of fatigue on his face, was slapped in front of everyone by a wealthy woman. He was ridiculed for his poverty. But no one imagined that the crowd that gathered outside the hotel the next day would change the entire city's perception. Before continuing, friends, if you want such stories to resonate with you, please subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Arun worked at the same hotel in the city. He was around 28 years old, thin in build, with an innocent face and the same white hotel uniform, a small towel slung over his shoulder. Arun's rule was to always bow his head and say, "Yes, madam," "Yes, sir," to guests no matter how tired he was. People often praised him for his politeness and patience. But this is the truth of the world. There are fewer people who praise him, and more who insult him. Arun's world was very small. A hotel job, returning to a small room at night, and medicines for his ailing mother. He sweated it out every day. But a complaint never crossed his face. On the other side was Riya, around 21 years old. The daughter of a prominent businessman. She wore expensive clothes, branded purses, and a reputation so imposing that no one dared to make eye contact. Riya believed that being rich was her identity. Whenever she entered the hotel, she would point her finger and shout orders at the staff. In her eyes, the poor were merely servants, treated not as human beings but as mere working machines. The other hotel staff endured her tantrums because they knew she was friends with the owner's daughter, and her family held considerable influence in the city. But life often turns on its head when we think we have everything under control. Riya believed she could humiliate anyone with her money and fame. And Arun believed that no matter how much humiliation he had to endure, remaining silent was his destiny. The stage was set. Now all that was left was a tiny spark that would shake the entire city the next day. The same luxurious five-star hotel in the city. It was evening. The lobby was glittering. Chandelier light illuminated every corner. Guests were seated at their tables. Some were having business meetings. Others were enjoying dinner with family. The soft tune of a violin played throughout the hall. Arun was on duty. Tray in hand, the same calm smile on his face. Fatigue might have been racking his body, but it was his habit to never let his guests feel that he was poor. Just then the hotel door slammed open. Riya entered with her friends. In a sparkling dress, high heels, and a branded bag in hand, she was accompanied by a group of friends. All of them were as affluent and wealthy as he was. "Waiter," Riya said loudly as they entered the lobby. There was command in her voice, not humanity. Arun immediately bowed and said, "Yes, madam, what do you want?" Riya snapped her fingers and said, "Get us the best table and yes, hurry up. We don't like to wait." Arun smiled and nodded and led her to the table. He was filling water when the tray shook slightly, and a few drops fell on the table. It was such a small thing, but Riya's face burned red with anger. She shouted loudly in front of everyone, "Is this what you've been taught? You can't even pour water properly. This is your job, and you can't even do that properly." The people in the hall looked at her in shock. Some frowned, others whispered. Arun quickly wiped the table with a napkin and said, "Forgive me, madam. I won't repeat this mistake." But Riya's anger remained unabated. She said loudly, "Poor people can never change. They work like beggars." And then, in front of everyone, she slapped Arun hard. The entire hall was stunned. The violin stopped playing. All the guests stood stunned. Some people whispered, "Such a big spectacle. And that too in front of everyone. What was the poor boy's fault?" Arun's face lit up. Tears welled up in his eyes, but he said nothing. He bowed his head and stood there. Riya's friends laughed. "Good slap, Riya. Now she'll remember." But many guests' eyes held both anger and pity. Someone whispered, "Money can't buy humanity." Arun stood there. His lips trembled but no words came out. His heart was broken. He wondered. Is it a crime to be poor? Is there no respect for hard work? That night he completed his duty, but his steps were heavy. Every eye was tearing him apart, and when he returned home, tears flowed uncontrollably in front of his mother for the first time. His mother consoled him. Son, time pays back insults. Remain silent today. Tomorrow your truth will humble everyone. Arun looked into his mother's eyes and vowed to himself, now I have to answer to time. The next morning the atmosphere in the city had changed. Hundreds of people had gathered outside the hotel. Media vans were parked, cameras were rolling, and police vehicles were parked. People from every car that stopped on the road were poking their heads out and asking, "What's going on here? Why is there so much crowd?" The hotel guards were sweating. No one could understand why so many people had suddenly gathered. Inside, there was whispering among the staff. The incident from last night had reached everyone's ears. That rich girl had slapped the waiter. Now people were wondering if this was all related to her. Riya also arrived with her friends. The same pride was still on her face. She smiled at the crowd and said, "Looks like it's a film stars program." But her friends gradually started to feel uneasy. One said, "Riya, these media. Why are you here? I wonder if this is going to escalate into something serious." Riya shrugged her shoulders and said, "Hey, what's the big deal? I know how to handle everything. Money makes everyone quiet." The crowd was growing. Suddenly, a long black car pulled up outside the hotel. 2 more cars followed. The doors opened, and officers in suits and boots stepped out. Media cameras turned toward them. The crowd watched as a man emerged from the center. The same Arun. But today his face was devoid of fatigue. There were no tears in his eyes. Today he wasn't in his waiter's uniform. Today he stood erect, full of confidence, wearing a black coat and tie. People looked at each other and whispered, "This is the same waiter who was slapped yesterday, isn't it?" "Yes, but how is he here with officers in suits and boots?" Riya's face paled for a moment. "What is he doing here?" she muttered. The crowd made way. Both police and media moved toward Arun. A reporter shouted, "Sir, are you the same waiter who was slapped yesterday?" Arun took a deep breath and looked at the crowd. "Yes, it's me. Until yesterday, you all thought I was a poor waiter, but today I stand here with my true identity." The crowd went silent. Riya's legs trembled. Just then, her father emerged from behind her, a prominent businessman in the city. He was surprised by the crowd. But when he saw Arun, his eyes widened. Then the media started making noise. Who is Arun? What secret is hidden behind him? At that moment, the entire atmosphere fell silent. Arun raised his hand to calm everyone down and said, "I was slapped last night. It was only because I looked poor and because I was wearing a waiter's uniform. But today I'm here to tell you all. I'm the rightful heir to this hotel chain." A loud cheer erupted from the crowd. Riya's face turned red. Her father was stunned. Arun continued, "Yes, I'm the owner's son. But I spent years of my life as a waiter so I could see the hardships poor staff go through. And what happened yesterday reminded me that our mindset needs to change." Hundreds of people outside the hotel were now staring at Arun in complete silence. The boy who had been carrying a tray and bowing before everyone saying, "Yes, madam. Yes, sir," was now standing tall in front of everyone. Riya's face went pale, her lips trembling. Her father tried to smile at the crowd, but beads of sweat were clearly visible on his forehead. Arun said in a deep voice, "I was slapped yesterday. I was humiliated not for a single mistake, but because I was considered poor. Just because I was dressed simply and carried a tray." The crowd stirred. Some people looked at Riya. Even her friends had fallen silent. Arun continued, "But today I am revealing my identity to everyone. I wasn't just a waiter. I am the true heir to this hotel chain. My father always said, if you want to be a master, first learn to be a servant. And that's what I came here to learn." The crowd erupted in applause. Riya's head bowed. Fear and shame were evident in her eyes. Her father stepped forward and said, "Son, look, it was all a misunderstanding. Ria is a child, she made a mistake. You should be kind." Arun's eyes were filled with anger and pain. He said with a cold smile, "The pain of the slap has subsided, but the burden of humiliation never does. And today I will answer for it here." He announced in front of everyone. "From today, all your business privileges are revoked. All your contracts with our company are terminated." The crowd looked on in astonishment. Ria and her father stood there stunned, helpless, and ashamed. Tears welled up in Ria's eyes. She said tremblingly, "Arun, forgive me. I didn't know it was you." Arun who interrupted her. "Are you apologizing because of my identity or from your heart? If I were still a waiter, would you regret it?" Ria fell silent. The crowd fell silent. Arun looked at everyone and said, "Friends, remember, poverty is not a sin. Hard work is never small. But arrogance always brings down a person." The crowd erupted in applause. Many people had tears in their eyes. That day, Arun became not just the heir to a hotel but a messenger of humanity. Ria and her father stood, bowed before the crowd. Never insult the poor. It's a game of time. Poor today, he could be rich tomorrow.